Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys today? Happy Thursday, in case you weren't sure what day it was in Incline, Crystal Bay. That music that was on there today was to you. That was you, Tim, right? Thank you.
Yes, it was. I'm flattered and thank you. And that's not meant to be a plug for me and what I do, but it's humbling to hear it. So thanks so much, Carrie.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. That was good music. That's a good way to start my day.
Thank you.
All right. I think we're ready to start. Let me just make sure. Okay. So we're excited to have Indra Winquest with us again today, and also Tim Callicrate, the Board of Trustees chairperson. So thank you too. I know you're busy, and I really appreciate you spending some time with us today. This is week 2. Yep. Can you hear me? Oh, hi. This is week 2 of our community conversations as part of the remote wellness program. So if you haven't checked out the remote wellness program, go online at inclinerecreation.com and click on the remote wellness tab and get all the information there. We have all kinds of amazing online offerings. So we're hoping people can do that until we can meet again. And we are hoping that all of our community is healthy and safe out there. And we just wanted to hope that we're in the spirit of staying home and staying healthy. That's why we're doing these community chats, to virtually update people in more of a casual setting than like a board meeting. So we just wanted to just check in with everyone. And so we have a limited time frame, and our schedule is going to go a little bit like this. Tim's going to do some opening comments, and then I'm going to start kicking off some questions for Indra and Tim, and then you guys are going to answer those. And at the end, with the rest of the program time here, we're going to take some community questions via the chat bubble down there. Not the chat bubble, I'm sorry, the Q&A bubble down on your screen. But that will be at the end of the presentation. So just go ahead and give a listen first to our Board of Trustee chair, and then we'll get started. Thanks.
Thanks, Kari. I just want to welcome everybody to this live stream. This is brand new for me, other than the board meeting night before last. So the technology that there is today hopefully can connect us, even though we're social distancing, and hopefully staying safe and well at home or wherever you're sheltered at this time. We are going through history making, and I've been in town 35 years, and this is the first time I've ever seen a Hyatt shut completely. And somebody has been putting around on Facebook, when you see the casinos and the churches closed, you know that something major is happening in our society. So a little levity there. I just want to thank personally and on behalf of the board, everybody in the community who has taken this to heart and taken a seriousness of what's going on. These are challenging times. Many have lost their jobs or in the process of being laid off, or have been furloughed. And we've had to close all of our facilities. We're leaving the beaches open on limited time, and Indra will address that during his remarks. We really appreciate the patience that everybody has been exercising. This is tough. We're so used to going out and utilizing all of what we have in our community without even thinking about it. And now we've had to rethink the processes that we go through. We don't know exactly when we're going to be opening. Hopefully it will be sooner than later, and sooner could be possibly by the beginning of May, most likely the middle of May. Hopefully no later than that, because we're all going stir crazy, and we want to get back to some sense of normalcy. So I'm going to quit droning on, but again, I just want to thank the community at large, of the residents of Incline Village and Crystal Bay, for just exercising patience beyond that of Job or anybody else you can bring to mind. This is a real tough time, and we're all in this together. We're trying to do the best we can to get through it, working as a team. I want to especially thank Indra and all of his senior staff and all the folks at IVGID for doing banner work during this tough time. Indra, you've done yeoman's job at just keeping everybody calm, cool, and collected. And I want to thank my colleagues on the board, my fellow trustees. This has been a real challenge, but we're trying to do the best we can with the limited means that we have, and to stretch that out as long as we can, because financially we're looking at some interesting times ahead. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Kari, and thanks again for hosting this, and to Indra for all your hard work. And please express to your team that the board's gratitude is there, and as is the community's. All right, there you go.
Great, thank you, Tim. I really appreciate it. Okay, Indra, this first question's for you. Can you give us an update on the beaches?
Sure, thanks, Kari. So as I stated last week, we want to continue to try to make sure that the beaches are accessible. We had to restrict a little bit more over the last week just based on some of the behavior and some of the things that we were seeing. I will say that ever since we've made the plea for people to be more responsible and we closed down the parking lots to the beaches, and we have seen a big difference, and saw a little bit of a regression last weekend, but for the most part, it was manageable. And the one thing that we did do is we are now closing the walk-in gates at 6 o'clock in the evening. What we were finding was a lot of people were coming down between 6 and 8, and unfortunately, a lot of alcohol, a lot of glass on the beach, people smoking. We had broken glass in the Village Green parking lot. And, we understand people want to get out and try to go enjoy the sunset and things like that. We certainly want that to happen, but we're just trying to make sure that we're not encouraging people to gather together. And sometimes some of that stuff does do that. And so we've had to up the ante a little bit. It's still walk-in only. As I mentioned, we close the gates at 6. Just a reminder, no alcohol down at the beaches right now. Paddle sports, if you don't have a kayak or a paddleboard on the racks, of course, you can walk through the walk-in gates to go out and access the lake. Another one is, we're saying no chairs and umbrellas, and that's mostly because we just don't feel like now is the right time where people need to have a beach day. Go down there for an hour or so, hang out, let the kids get the wiggles out, all that kind of stuff. And then, just at that point, we really just encourage people after they get that out of their system and enjoy the sunshine a little bit, just to, to head back home or, finish up their walk or whatever it is. So we're just encouraging people to not come down and just spend the entire day down there. Of course, that's what we want. That's what we'd love to see. And that's what we're used to this time of the year. But so that's really the purpose of that. And then also as a reminder, the boat ramp is currently closed. TRPA has no mechanism to inspect, so the only vessels that are allowed on the lake are those that are already on the lake. And we did get an email from them this morning, and they're trying to focus on some type of an alternative plan, so that hopefully at some point in May we can get back to launching boats and things like that. So they know that it's an impact on not only our residents here, but also any second homeowners or visitors that may at some point be planning to come. And we still are, we're still just advising people to, try to stay home, to stay healthy, and Tahoe will be here in a month from now, or 2 months from now, or 3 months from now, however this ends up playing out. But just really want to focus and keep everybody safe and healthy. None of our venues are open with the exception of very minimal beaches where we're asking folks to make sure that you have your resident passes with you at all times, because we will have staff roaming through periodically. We're also we typically don't bring security on until mid-May, but we're working with our provider to see if we can bump that up a little bit. I think that will help, not to restrict anymore, not, just to really help staff kind of make sure that everyone's being responsible and having conversations with people. And then again, yesterday was the last day that we allowed dogs on the beach. And we've gotten a lot of correspondence from folks asking us to extend that. And at this point in time, that's just not something that we're going to do. We also encourage people when they're at Village Green with their dogs to just make sure that, there's social distancing and physical distancing. And we have seen, for the most part, very responsible behavior from the dog owners over at Village Green. not as much down at Ski Beach, but, you know, at the same time, not too bad. We fully understand that, you know, some people will call me and say, hey, there's, you know, 5 people hanging out next to each other down at the beach. And my response to that is, well, did you ever think that that's probably a family of 5 people? And that's totally fine and appropriate. So everyone has a different idea. There's a lot of people saying close the beaches. Of course, most of our, especially our full-time residents, want us to try to keep them open, and that's what we're trying to do. And we will do that as long as we can, unless, you know, something crazy happens or we see a spike in irresponsible behavior. But certainly hoping that our community members can help get the word out that let's keep the beaches accessible, but let's do the right thing to make sure that everyone can enjoy it. And certainly please try to make sure that you have your resident passes with you at all time, in case we have staff roaming through asking just people to show them. You know, we typically start staffing the gates in early May, and we're ramping up for that. We may staff a little bit sooner. We're working on a plan, but I'm not going to go there unless I make sure that our staff is protected, and then also that, you know, our community members are protected as well from a health and safety standpoint. So I think that should cover everything down at the beaches. Let me know if I missed anything.
Oh, no, I think you got it all. So awesome. Thank you. Tim, this question is for you.
Okay.
Since having our first virtual board meeting last Tuesday, what does the future of the Board of Trustees meetings look like? Maybe staff reports and public comment and all the meetings available online. Can you give us a little more information?
Sure. At this time, obviously, until Governor Sisolak, you know, lifts the no congregation rule as far as public meetings and things of that nature, we are going to abide by that and just have more of the virtual meetings as they're normally scheduled. We have a workshop coming up after our next board meeting. Board meeting is May 6th and the workshop is May 7th. I believe it's the Wednesday and Thursday of first week in May. And as we do this more often, especially for me, and I become more comfortable, hopefully there'll be fewer glitches in the technology. And that's just something that we're all working through. It's actually been, I think we had really good public input. It gave folks maybe who wouldn't normally be able to attend the meeting that opportunity. So trying to find a positive out of it, it hopefully will open it up to more folks and what they can do and participate. It is problematic because, as I had said before, on allowing people to finish their thoughts if they run over a little past the 3-minute mark. Unfortunately, we have to cut people off at the 3 minutes so we can get everybody in. So as I said before the last meeting, and will continue to state, if someone gets cut off, it's not meant because we don't care for their comments. It's just trying to keep it in a 3-minute situation. And then also any kind of staff reports, or certainly we can't do the overheads or things of that nature that we've done in the past. And so we're trying to tighten things up, possibly have more meetings, as in maybe an additional meeting if to cover information so that they don't drag on so long. And depending upon the actual trustees and their schedules, if we can even bump them up an hour or sooner, so that we just can tighten things up, get to our business, allow the public its opportunity to share information with the board and ask, you know, pertinent questions of us prior to the board meetings, so that we can maybe do these are the questions that we've received through the week or the 2 weeks between meetings, and we want to try to answer them during the meeting where it's appropriate. So we have a little flexibility in that regard. As far as the general business items, there were some concerns that it was a pick and choose, and at this point we have to be diligent on the public comments on those areas that are the most affected. And so that's why I only allow the public comment during the budget aspect. We are going to have probably a couple-hour budget workshop, and there will be ample opportunity for folks to ask the important questions. We will have much clearer figures on our budget as it comes. You know, yesterday's filing was perfunctory for the state, and there was a lot of concern, not only from the board, our general manager, our director of finance, but many in the community that, this was not a valid budget. We had to get in what we had to get in, and we're fully aware that the numbers will be changing, especially as we go through with the whole, furloughing process and projections for the future. But unless and until everything opens up, we're still, doing the best that we can to give realistic figures, because we don't want to give them, too conservative or too liberal on those. We just have to try to get the right number for the facts and figures. And at the budget meeting, we're going to be able to flesh that out much better than we have been able to. Paul Navazio, our director of finance, is doing an exceptional job. He walked into the middle of a lot of activity at the worst time possible. So we are working with him. Indra's working with him on a daily basis. I'm in contact with my colleagues on the board as necessary. I'm always available to the community. You're welcome to call me and discuss at any time. And so I've droned on longer than that question demanded, but as far as the meetings go, we're going to continue the meetings. We're going to continue soliciting public comment. And hopefully, as we become more accustomed to this, we really get some dynamic action happening during our online streaming meetings.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much for that update. It was a I have a feeling. The next question I have is for Indra. Do you have any public works updates for us today?
Sure. So not much has changed since I gave the update last week. Our PW department, they're as close to business as usual as you can get, and in the sense that it's all water, sewer, solid waste. It's all essential infrastructure. So just again, can't say enough about the PW and the utilities team, and they're out there doing their work and making sure the water's flowing and the toilets are flushing. And I will say that so far, our community's been very good about this. Other communities are really suffering from sewer issues as far as people not paying attention to what they're flushing. And so far, it's been pretty much business as usual for us. So just encourage everyone to keep, stay on that trajectory there. And, anytime we have a major backup or any kind of sewage issue, it's significant. So, but, the office is closed to the public. They continue to answer phones, respond to emails, deal with customer inquiries. I did mention at the board meeting on Tuesday that, they are not, they suspended any shut-offs for non-payment. They're working with customers on, how they deal with late payments. And so if we have a utilities customer out there that needs a little bit of help, planning out when they can pay their bills and things like that, certainly encourage you to reach out to Samantha and the rest of the team over there, and they'll work with you to make sure that kind of ease your mind a little bit on that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it's close to business as usual for them. And so they're going to continue to work through all this.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for that update. They are answering phones over there as well at the Public Works building. Great. Tim, you gave us a little bit of information about budget. Do you have any more updates on the 2021 budget?
It's just, like I said, we are going to have much better numbers through the workshop, by the workshop and through the workshop. And then when we give our final budget to the state, which is due at the end of the month, the community has been expressing a lot of, concern, but also just a lot of good, positive feedback. We have some brilliant minds in this community who have been pointing out areas that we need to tighten up and focus in on. As an adjunct to this, Paul is working on the internal control situation and is putting together a scope of work in that regard, along with the audit committee. The chair of the audit committee is Trustee Dent, and of course our treasurer to the board is Trustee Schmitz. So we're trying to get those up and running sooner than later. That will help a lot in calming any fears the community has. We have been able to address that there have been major issues in that regard. So that is being corrected. I'm going to touch on something with the utilities that Indra may have covered. I know a lot of this is covered on Tuesday, so we're not trying to repeat ourselves, but for folks who didn't see the meeting, the scope of work on the effluent pipeline is just about ready. And we're very happy about that because we want to get that going sooner than later. That's a critically important issue for the district, and it's not being put on a sideline. Just to calm again any fears that the community may have or perceive, because you haven't seen a lot of hoopla front and center doesn't mean that we've shut ourselves down. We are working diligently behind the scenes trying to get all of these things addressed. And it just so happens that we were well on our way, and then boom, COVID-19 hit. So we had to go into scramble mode. And it's been that first week was the first 2 weeks were pretty hairy. And we got through it. The community realized what was going on, that it was bigger than just a bad case of the flu. And so with all of that going on, the budgetary process still had to continue, but we had to put a few things off to the side for the immediacy. But again, that's why we wanted to call this workshop, so that we can really hammer it down, and then we can hopefully have authentic projections for where we're going to be, because we still don't know how long we're going to have to keep things closed. And so when we get into actual revenues or non-revenues, as they do or don't come forward, and the use of our facilities and the staffing and all those things, we're certainly been working night and day to try to get better numbers on that. We've reached out to some of our community members who are very knowledgeable in these arenas, and they have given invaluable feedback. So we're working with within and without to try to make this budget process the best that we've ever been able to in the most trying times. And that's a tall order, but we are certain that we're going to be able to, achieve that. But I'm looking forward to the next meeting, and then especially that budget workshop, because I think answer a lot of questions that not only do we in the district have, we as a board have, but the community. The most important members of this whole equation are the members of the community, the taxpayers, and we are trying to be as responsive to the folks paying the bills, so that where each and every dime goes. And this has been a heady process, but I think that we're well on our way, and that by that May 7th workshop, the community hopefully will take a deep breath and go, okay, they're doing what they said they were going to do, because that's our number one goal, is to fulfill the promises that we all made as trustees to the community, to be good fiduciaries. So that's what we're working towards, and we will get there. So again, extreme patience. We thank you all, because this has been something else.
Yeah, Kari, just to piggyback on what Tim's saying, staff there's so many unknowns with what's going on. I mean, we know we still have 2.5 months left of this current fiscal year, and we're hoping that the brunt of the impact is going to occur over these next 2.5 months. However, we know that even if we're able to start transitioning back to some level of normal operations in July, it's not going to be 100%, what we typically do. And so what Paul and I are working with, and all of our supervisors and managers that are responsible for their budgets for each one of their different operating areas, we're working on, several different scenarios. So, what happens if we can't get anything open in July? What does that look like? What if we're at 60% of normal in July? What if we're at 70% of normal in July? So we're adjusting labor, we're adjusting our expenses based on those types of models. A lot of people in the community are, thinking that, in July, we may get back to normal operations at the beaches and at the golf courses and all that. And I don't think that that's going to happen. And so we're certainly planning for the worst, hoping for the best that we can get. And so it is going to be a tremendous amount of work to work through all these different models. But, we have very well-educated staff in their operations, and they're all responsible for their own budgets. So it's just making some adjustments. And that's what we're going to be presenting to the board on May 7th, so that they can make a very educated and informed decision about the final product that we want to submit to the state at the end of May. And that'll also include a lot of discussion about how we're going to be dealing with capital projects, especially for the first couple of quarters of the next fiscal year and even beyond that. So a lot of work going to be done in the background, hopefully a lot of great information presented to the board, and I'm sure the board and staff will be able to come to a good agreement on how we move forward. So, and then also just what Tim was talking about with the effluent pipeline. So we are hoping to, we're planning to bring back a scope of services on May 6th, and that would be to go out to RFP, hire a third party consultant to do an end-to-end assessment of our infrastructure, our utility infrastructure, in particular the pipeline. So look for that upcoming. I know that's been on a lot of people's minds. It's probably the single biggest project that we're going to execute in this century. Hopefully we don't have anything catastrophic that happens, but this is a big project, and so we're certainly looking forward to kicking that portion of it off. And so hopefully that adds to what Trustee Callicrate said.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Indra, this one's for you. Do you have a message to our younger community members in Incline?
Well, I will say that after I made the plea last week, I really want to thank in particular Tim Kelly and Mario Arnellis, who lead Young Life, and saw some information on social media last night. That's a great group of young people in our community, and they're really going to be our advocates to help educate other young people on, making sure that they're being responsible. We closed the skate park, and then the next day, where the fences are ripped down and, kids are dropping in and all that kind of, we know that the teens want to get out and be active and do things, but we're just hoping through advocacy from their peers as well as the parents that, we're just making sure that it's responsible. And so I just, I know all the kids in town. I know you do too, Kari, and I've just been texting them all and, saying, hey, just be smart and do the right thing, because you may not think this impacts you that much, but certainly if you get sick, it could impact a lot of others. And as I keep mentioning, we do have a heavy, 55 plus demographic in our community. And we know most of those folks are very active, but we want to make sure we're protecting everybody. So young people, just get out and get your wiggles out and get some exercise and go back home, play in your backyard, and do your homework too. You should be online school.
Kari, if I could jump in a minute, I just want to piggyback on what Indra had to say. And for the folks in the community that I've watched grow up over the last 35 years and their kids, it's been kind of mind-boggling in that regard. But I appreciate the participation of folks in that younger demographic in not only the community activities, but in the political processes and just social awareness. And as Indra said, it's what you all have been doing within your peer groups and the education of the community in general speaks legions about, growing up in this spectacular paradise and then wanting to continue that for your own children. And we want this to be here for everybody. When I'm long gone, I hope that whoever's there can look back and say, yeah, they made the right decisions. So what you do today impacts who follows you. So just keep doing the right thing and keep moving forward, because you're on the right track, all you folks out there. And maybe for those skateboarders, when all this settles down, there might be an exciting change take place at that end of the Incline Park project. That's all I'm going to say right now. I don't want to raise too many points. But I think there's an opportunity to improve our facilities prudently and, take care of the projects that many of you were in middle school and now you are parents. So hopefully we can get some of those done. So next question.
That's great. Okay. Tim, at the April 1st board meeting, the board unanimously voted for the no smoking, no vaping policy. Can you please tell us a little bit more about that process and how you feel about that?
Sure. We've had folks through the years, and again, I've been here since 1985, and that comes up and has come up frequently. We didn't have a policy in place. So while you can, politely ask someone, please don't smoke or light up your cigar next to us on the beach, which has happened on numerous occasions. Now we have the policy. That being said, we are going to have, smoking areas that are going to be, clean and comfortable, but away from vegetation, away from the entrance, away from the snack bar, so that people who want to smoke or want to vape feel, okay, I can go over here and I can do it at this particular area where there are receptacles to take the cigarette butts or the tobacco use or whatever. In that policy, the no marijuana situation is blanket throughout all of our facilities. So, that's just not going to take place. This community has spoken loudly and clearly. And while it may be legal in the state, we have private facilities for the use of our residents and their guests. And that's something that we as a board said absolutely not. There will be no marijuana use. I have had some folks who like to, some golfers who are concerned about the opportunity to light up a cigar. That's been something that has been allowed. And, I can't say there is absolutely no smoking at the golf courses, because I don't think that we took into consideration that aspect of things. These are not draconian measures, but they're measures that need to be taken, because we've had a lot of complaints, and especially at the beaches. Obviously at the rec center, that's not going to, who's going to be on a treadmill with a cigarette, but who knows? I don't want to impugn those people that have chosen to smoke. That's their right. They can do that. We want to give them areas that are clean and well kept and away from others that they don't feel like they're a pariah. But if they want to smoke, they're able to do that. But the beaches was the main concern, because, cigarette butts and, you name it, we've seen it down there. And it just is, it's pretty disgusting when that happens, when people aren't taking care of their own habits. Just as when we find broken glass, which is a rarity, but we do find that, that's something that's a no-no. It's just be responsible. If you like to smoke or vape, we're going to provide in certain areas at certain, absolutely no smoking, period. So this is a process we're going through now. So when we reopen all of our facilities, there will be clearly marked areas and clearly marked do's and don'ts, because I don't want to castigate those that have chosen to vape or to smoke. That's their opportunity. So we want to make it as a smooth transition as possible. But it was a 5-0 vote, and that was nice to see, because we all have those concerns. And they're health issues. You can't impose them on someone from the top down, but you can encourage maybe a little healthier use of your time and products. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. Indra, go back to you. Do you have any other facility updates regarding some of our facilities like golf, which Tim just mentioned a little bit, tennis center, rec center, place, venues like that?
Sure. So, I'll just kind of go down the list with the rec center. As I mentioned last week, I see recreation centers and fitness centers being one of the last types of facilities that the governor is going to allow to open. And so I think, I don't see a scenario where the rec center is going to open in the next month for sure. And a lot of people have been asking about whether they're going to get billed or not. Well, of course, we're not going to, like the month of April, we'll be shutting down all of our EFT billing for the month of May. Unless there's some kind of miraculous recovery, which I don't think any of us expect to happen in the next couple of weeks. And then, with those members who have pre-purchased annual memberships or 6-month or 3-month memberships, we'll be working with those individuals on a case-by-case basis. But for the most part, once we get back open, we'll just be tacking on the amount of time that they lost with those memberships on at the end of their memberships. So. And certainly if there's some people that would rather just get refunded, we'll work with them as well. But with the rec center, I see it, being a little bit more of a long haul. Community programming, our senior programs, our aquatics programs, our youth sports and adult sports and all that type of stuff. hope maybe there's an opportunity to start up some of that earlier than the rec center opens. It all just really depends on where we are on the curve and how this is flattened out and what the governor says and really what the team and I think is safe for our, in particular for our customers and our folks that participate in these programs. So certainly with the program like Conversation Cafe, which is one of our most popular ongoing weekly programs, we're hoping to start working with Jennifer and seeing if we can, figure out a way to do a Zoom type of a Zoom type, webinar conference so that they can get back. And because we know a lot of those folks, they really look forward to going down to Aspen Grove every Thursday to participate in those conversations. And it's kind of a key program that we run all year round. So, adult sports, we have adult softball and all that stuff scheduled to start up in mid-June. I know a lot of locals love that program, and we're certainly hoping that TK can get that up and going. But right now, there's just too many unknowns, so we're making no promises. I think we're going to know a lot more in 2 or 3 weeks about what that looks like. And if it seems like it's going to get pushed out a little farther, some of the programming, we can reschedule it. Some of it will definitely be canceled for this year. But, where we run condensed seasons for some of our sports seasons and stuff. We're hoping we can still have basketball camps in July and August and those types of things for the local kids. And we're going to certainly try, but, we're not going to do any of that unless we know it's safe. Tennis, the USTA has come out and said that, tennis is not a safe sport to be playing right now. Some might argue the other way. We have pushed back the opening of tennis to no earlier than May 18th. And even if we were to open then, or even Memorial Day weekend, which is the following weekend, it would be a very soft opening. More than likely the pro shop would not be open. We'd have a mechanism for people to get on the courts, pay daily fees, or, purchase their membership passes and things like that, have very limited staff on site. So, that's kind of the way we see tennis. But there is a scenario where tennis may not open until June or even later. We're just going to have to monitor that. And the golf course is very similar in the sense that, we are preparing our golf courses to open this summer. I mean, we're in the business of providing golf, and, we need to make sure that, these facilities are maintained and all that are ready. Even if we're not open, for a couple months, those are things that we need to get done anyway to protect our assets. And so, we're certainly hoping, Darren and his team and Ashley and Kyle are working on ways to, working with all the other PGA professionals and the other golf courses. I mean, there's a lot of people thinking about the same thing. So they're really networked in with all of these people to really start talking about what are safe ways that we could have a soft opening, get people out on the golf courses. It's also a revenue stream for us. And then also, obviously, we know that by June, late May, our golfers are going to be chomping at the bit to try to get out and get some exercise and start hitting some balls. And so we want to provide that opportunity. And, if the governor allows that, we will certainly be ready. We'll certainly be ready with safety measures to make sure that we can get people out there. And, it may be start out with, only residents, and, kind of a gradual opening. And certainly if it's going to be gradual, we want to make sure that our residents have the highest priority on accessing our facilities. So I think that's kind of how we're going to handle golf. And then with the beaches, again, we're just going to, it will also be very gradual, but we certainly hope that we're able to provide access and continue to provide access for people to get out and recreate. So not the perfect answer. We don't, it seems like every week we know a lot more, but we're, the staff, most of them aren't working. They're looking to get back to work when they can. And certainly we really miss that interaction with the community at all of our venues and stuff like that. So we hope that we can get back, to doing something pretty soon here.
Great. All right. And Tim, did you have any final comments on the effluent pipeline project from a board perspective? I know you touched on it a little bit, but I just thought maybe if you wanted to add anything.
Well, this is a top priority. I mean, this is like Indra said, once in a century or so project. And it's been a tedious, lengthy process. Missteps have been made along the way. We're the first to admit that. We have addressed those and are in the process of addressing those, bringing in an independent third party to manage the entirety from basically Sweetwater to the wetlands in Carson, and really assess the entirety of the project, specifically the most vulnerable parts of the pipeline that have already been you know, addressed to the public. We realize that this is the number one top of the heap project that we need to address, and not to lessen the fact of the dog park is always at the top of community services projects. Indra has some information that he shared at the last board meeting with the U.S. Forest Service. It's kind of everything got put on hold that we had no control over, but we are pushing earnestly ahead, specifically on the effluent pipeline and public works in general. This is critical to our infrastructure. We are a general improvement district, and these are general and needed improvements that we have to make. So we as a board put that as a top priority, and as it should be. And again, this scope of work is coming back to us on the 6th, and we will have a better update opportunity at that time. I'm looking at the time here, and I think that there are some questions that we would definitely want to take from the community. So I'm going to give it back to you, and rather that we answer those questions first and foremost.
Great. Okay. Indra, you touched on this a little bit about the rec league, youth and adult team sports. Do you want to mention anything else? That was one of our community questions.
Yeah, so I'm looking at these questions. So, as I said, staff is still preparing. This is the time of the year where staff starts preparing for these late spring, early summer start of these programs. So with all the youth and adult sports programs, the infamous Tim Kelly is out there. He's still preparing to have these programs. And, we're, like I said, like with adult softball, for instance, I've been getting a lot of texts from people in town about, are we going to have adult softball? And certainly we want to, and typically we start mid-June. And if it means that we can't start mid-June, but we can start in mid-July, I'm sure Tim will, have, kind of adjust the schedule to maybe go through the end of September instead of ending at the end of August, to make sure we can have a full season, or we do a condensed season. We have several sports camps, and, in the summer, that we're hoping to run. We just don't know yet. I mean, some of the basketball camps, we get 60, 80 kids in these camps. And so I don't know if that's going to be appropriate as far as what the governor allows, and then we also have youth golf programs at the golf courses. And so those are kind of in a similar situation. It's kind of a wait and see, but we're certainly going to do our normal planning up into the point where if we find out we know we're not going to be able to run a lot of these programs, then the direction the staff has been, then you stop focusing on those. You don't spend time on those. Clearly, we're not spending money on any of this kind of stuff right now until we know for sure that these programs are going to run. So once we get an idea, then, we'll kind of take the expense freeze off per se. So we're hoping so. And we'll just continue to keep everyone updated.
Great. Can you touch a little bit on 4th of July? I know that's a hard thing because we just don't know. We don't have a crystal ball, but maybe you can give us a little bit of insight on what's happening behind the scenes.
So, the group, which I'm part of, the planning group, we are definitely getting close to having to make a decision. And I would say there's a good chance that 4th of July is going to look very different this year. There's a lot of fundraising that needs to go on, and we just don't know, we don't really think right now is the right time to start asking people to donate money. And I realize a lot of people still will, and they have already. And, we'll be working with Andy and Mike Murphy at the Hyatt and the folks that are part of this group, Blaine, on how we're going to handle all of that. But, when you sign contracts with fireworks providers, they need to know, there's deadlines, and we've got an extension to May 1st, but we suspect we're going to be making a decision pretty quick here. And, I just don't see a scenario where the governor is going to be okay with 8,000 people being on the beaches in one day. And, and that's typically what happens over the course of the day between 3 beach sites. And but if for some reason we decide to we cancel the fireworks, it doesn't mean that if there's an opportunity that we can't have some level of a community celebration for the 4th of July. And I would hope we can still do that, utilize Village Green, a lot of local nonprofits that want to get involved, but definitely no parade plan for this year. We got the other events like beer and brats and the duck races and those, and we certainly hope that we can continue to have those events, but we're just not sure yet. And Sheila Leon and her team will be working through that process as well. So hope to keep updating the board, but the big one for us is just making a decision on fireworks, because there's a traffic control plan that I have to manage. There's all these different things that we do. There's a a ton of planning that goes on with beach staff and that kind of stuff, park staff. So it'll at some point we need to make a decision so we can say, we're just not going to be planning for that. And there's also the 4th of July, there's a tremendous amount of expense to that celebration as well. We'll be sorting through all of that. But as of right now, I would say very good chance that July 4th is going to be looking a lot different this year, unfortunately.
Ari, I'd like to jump in a minute here. I know that there are a lot of questions regarding other things. Obviously, the 4th of July is critically important to locals, because that's when a lot of locals unfortunately go run and hide. This might be one of those times with the 4th of July that we locals kind of have that chance to make it back to a local celebration, especially if there are restrictions in place with fireworks and crowds at the beach and things of that nature. So I know that Indra and his team have been on this for the last couple months, because it's a multi-month process to even get to the point of the May 1st deadline. I did see two questions there, if I can just jump in a minute. One, what can any of you do on the Airbnb or VRBOs? We were asked that question, if not daily, at least every other day. And unfortunately, we as a district have no authority over Airbnbs, VRBOs, any rentals whatsoever. Those are county and state issues. With the state, with the governor, if he were to say no rentals are available, that's something that the governor, you'd have to take up with him. The county has restrictions in place, but how do we enforce those? IVGID's not in the position to dictate private property rights to anyone, other than what those rentals might, how they might impact our recreational facilities or our infrastructure in general. But we don't have the legal authority to dictate to anybody that you can't rent your place out or anything of that nature. We just have been asking and pleading and firmly telling, please, folks, don't rent your facilities until this curve is flattened out and things get back to a safer situation. We have a lot of second and third homeowners that we clearly, they can do with their property what they want. We would hope that they would stay sheltered in place where their main residence is. But again, we can't be outside their door with a sheriff saying you don't get to come in. We've had a variety of interesting suggestions on how we could go about this, but we have no legal authority to dictate who can or can't rent whatever they are doing. Please be considerate of your neighbors and realize that we have one hospital that is for the local community. And should we become a hot spot like Truckee, it's going to be very problematic. So we're trying to just encourage people, please stay where you normally do. This is going to come to an end sooner than later, and then we'll at least be able to get back to whatever level of the new normal might be. There was that question. The other one, and this is impacting a lot of people, if and when can we open up the transfer station? Because there are a lot of people with recycling, like taking pine needles to wherever the pine needles go, usually down at Preston Field, or putting it out. So Indra, hopefully you can answer that one or give a little better update, because I've been concerned. I have a lot of recycling to take over there, and it's been closed for a while now. Is there any update from Waste Management on when we might be able to start using that? I think they could social distance people, because it's not where you want to have 10 or 15 people to dump at the same time, because that's not a pleasant place. So, maybe you've got some insight.
I do. I mean, I have a little bit, talking to folks over at PW. They're under restrictions as well, as far as, I know that Waste Management decided to delay their green waste program, and there's information on their website about it. And I don't want to say for sure, but I'll make sure I'll work with our Public Works Department to make sure we're sharing that information. Maybe we can have Kari send a lot of this information out through Vidcom. On social media. Kari, if you can follow up with Sam or somebody over there. And, I think they're just restricting their staff for safety reasons. They don't want them, going by and grabbing people's bags of green waste and things like that. And from what I understand, there's predated stickers that get mailed out. So there's just a process that needs to go through. So from what I understand, that will be delayed. And then I will let Waste Management know. We can let them know that they need to, continuously provide updates on when they think they're going to open the dump back up and things like that. I know I've gotten a lot of emails, again, people that think we have control over that, but we don't. And all we can really do is just really make sure that we're getting the information to the Waste Management folks to make sure they know that there are people that rely on that. And I know it's hard, because now's the time of the year where I've been telling people, there's no excuse if your yard looks bad, because we all have plenty of time to get out and clean up our yards, and everybody's doing that. And so now they're like, well, we've had this extra time, we've gotten our yard cleaned up. Now we have nobody picking up our green waste. So I know that Waste Management knows this. It's the same thing down in Reno. They've just delayed this service. So no update on when they're going to open up the transfer station again for dumping, or the green waste, but certainly we'll continue to try to get Waste Management to be, to provide as much information as they can.
Yeah, and it's important, I think, that as we discuss this with the Waste Management, that maybe at our next board meeting, we can kind of put that out there, that there are potential fire hazards if you have a lot of bags of pine needles stacked up on your property, or you haven't done the cleanup, because where do you take that? Or if you're using a yard service or whatever, landscape service group, where do they take that to dump all that refuse? So it's getting into that area of fire safety. So maybe we can talk to the fire department. Maybe we can use that lot down at Preston Field, as we have in the past, for Christmas tree recycling. Maybe there's an opportunity to work with Waste Management or in their yard somehow where people could leave it off but keep the social distancing aspect in place. I don't know. We will get a better answer for the community within this next week to 10 days. So by the next board meeting, we can give you an update. We'll have Waste Management update as soon as they can, because this is, they're a franchise for us. We do use their services and the community pays for it. So we want to make sure that they're aware that we need the dump back open as soon as possible. Obviously, we want safety as the number one issue. But any other questions?
I also wanted to interject really quick about the Waste Management. They are encouraging people to register their accounts so that they can update you electronically. So I will put that information in our chat today and also post it on IVGIDCOM so that people can register their accounts and get the up-to-date information from them. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I can go through these questions, and then I think Tim and I can answer these. So the next one is, currently prices are going up after May 1st for Diamond Peak season passes. Does IVGID plan on pushing back that date? We certainly want to work with the community, so I would expect we're going to be extending that date. I have not talked to our marketing department about this in the last few days, so we'll try to give you a better update on that at the chat next week, or at least try to get it out to the community in other ways. But we fully understand that people are hesitant to buy their passes right now because A, they don't know what their financial outlook looks like, but also whether or not we're going to have a full ski season, a ski season. We certainly expect to, but I think there's just a lot of variables and a lot of uncertainties out there. So I do suspect that, we will be extending that out, and I'll work with our team on that. And then the next question I can see is, have any of your employees filed for paid leave under the Family First Coronavirus Response Act? So I'm not the HR expert, but I guarantee you our HR director, Dee Carey, and her great team are all over this. They understand everything that's been going on. Most of our employees, based on the 5 or 6 qualifiers to qualify for that help, do not qualify. There are a few that either may or have, but we certainly know everything about the Families First Act, and obviously any type of help that we can get for our employees, we are going to get. I can guarantee the community that. Our team is working, a ton of hours right now just trying to keep up with everything that's happening federally and how we're working with all of our employees. Like we said, we've furloughed down hours, or have pay decreases that have been implemented for 90% of our full-time year-round staff, with the exception of a few that are extremely essential and continue to work like they normally would. But certainly we're aware of it. We're trying to help employees, and so there are some that we do think will qualify, but like I said, many of them do not. Why are picture pass holders not allowed to bring their own chairs? I already explained that. I don't think I need to go into that any further. If folks can just understand that for the next couple weeks, we just need people to do the right thing and get down there, get some sun for an hour, throw the football with your kid or whatever, out at the parks if you want to go out to the parks and some of the village green and some of the open space. But down at the beaches, it's just extremely important that, we use it the right way, and that, we don't plan on going down there having beach days. We may consider looking at this after we see how a week of behavior looks like, and we really feel like everyone is understanding what's going on and they're being respectful and responsible, then maybe we can lift some of these restrictions. But right now, I'm getting a lot of pressure from, many people in the community to just close the beaches completely. And so, right now, we want to keep that space available and accessible for people. And then, is the restriction to picture pass holders going to continue? It's going to continue for now. We don't know what that's going to look. We don't know how long that's going to go. There are legal things that we need to think about as far as the beach deed and the ordinance. And so we're working through all that. There's a lot of stuff that, that we have to work through that a lot of people don't even know or understand that we have to deal with as far as, process and legal guidelines and all those types of things. So right now we're saying, we're in the middle of an emergency pandemic. We have no mechanism for it. Is not business as usual at the beaches. We don't have a mechanism to sell daily beach tickets for guests like that. So right now our stance is that, please have your resident passes with you down at the beaches. And then next question is, are we giving any consideration to opening either of the golf courses? I think we've already just, and then it says, or just residents with get passes. I think we've already addressed that. I think this one would be maybe one for Tim. Please outline the timeline for board election and which board members are running for re-election. You want to address that one, Tim?
Sure. In this election cycle, there are 3 positions open at the board. 2 of the current board members have filed for the election, and that would be Matthew Dant and Sarah Schmitz. And then Peter Morris is not seeking re-election, so that would be quote unquote an open position. There are 6 candidates who are running for the 3 positions. And so in the fall, in November, when we have our general election, there's no primary, because the stipulations are, if there's one more than twice the number of candidates for those positions, then there would be a primary. So we're not having a primary this year. So the general election will choose 3 candidates. The top 3 candidates will then be seated. And then by the end of the year, usually there are board elections for the upcoming year. We may have to wait until the 1st of January, or the first meeting in January, to choose the board officers. There will be, since it's an interesting season right now with things being shut and closed and whatnot, our normal opportunities that the Bonanza, now the Tribune, would host a community forum where the candidates are asked questions and they are able to give a back and forth. We don't know when that's going to take place. And again, for IVGID to sponsor something like that at this time would be premature, because we don't even have our facilities open to the degree that we would like. So again, kind of May 1st to May 15th, we're going to know a lot more than we know now. Hopefully this shelter in place will be lifted by the middle of May, because it looks like things have already kind of cycled through. And then the opportunities to host something for the candidates, which is most likely, I think the earliest would be sometime in late August or September, just because of what's going on. And then that's close enough to the election as well to allow people to kind of get accustomed to what's going on and who's running and what their positions are. And so, but right now, there are 6 people running for 3 positions, and the general election will decide who those are. Kendra and I are the 2 that we have 2 more years apiece left. So ours would be in 2022. Our positions are final. So, but thanks for that question. And again, for folks out there, get involved when you can. Ask when we're out, out and about, or when the candidates are out and about and you can talk with them, ask them pertinent questions that are of your concern. And that just makes for a dynamic election in November.
So yeah, this next one, in California, cities are making their own decisions about beaches. What is the policy in Nevada? Only do what the governor says. That's a question. So yeah, I mean, the governor hasn't really said anything specifically about beaches, because there are no beaches in Nevada other than beaches that surround lakes. So it's a lot different than California, obviously. Right now, I'm focusing more on what's best for our community. I'm not as much worried about what other communities are doing. Of course, we're benchmarking, but we're unique, just like South Lake Tahoe is unique, just like Tahoe City is unique. And so I'm just focusing on doing what's best for us. And these are restricted access beaches that the district owns. So I think we have the ability to enforce and restrict and do some things to where we're able to provide access. And as long as we're doing that responsibly, we can. Now we have heard from the governor's office on this issue, and nobody has said that we have to close our beaches, but certainly we're going to follow the governor's orders as far as social distancing and mass gatherings. And that's why we've said all along that as long as people are responsible, we should be able to provide access. If they're not, then we will close the beaches. We'll just have to. And I don't want to have the governor's office call us and say, because your community members are being irresponsible, you have to close. I'd rather be out in front of that. And I think that's what we've tried to do within IVGID as a whole, is just, try to be out in front of these decisions that are being made. And I think, we've been able to do that for the most part. This next one, looking to the future for our community boating members, are there any plans to build a floating pier off Ski Beach and/or installing buoys to rent during the summer season? At this point in time, we do not have any plans to install a floating pier. And we don't have plans to install buoys. And I think over the years, our residents have said the last thing they want is to sit on the beach and look out in front of our beautiful beaches and just see boats lined up all along. And, obviously we already have somewhat of a challenge at Ski Beach with the amount of boats that pull up there. That's why it's Ski Beach. That's the beach we allow boats to pull up and anchor, and people are hanging out. But imagine what that would look like if you were sitting on Incline Beach looking out at the lake. And I don't think that that's what our residents want. Certainly, we may be looking down the road at a few different buoys, but it's more safety related. So if on these really windy days, as boats start trying to get off the lake and come down to the ramp, a lot of times there's a huge bottleneck. And so what we've talked about is maybe having a couple buoys so people can anchor off of, so they're not circling around or they're not floating back and forth, and it does create a safety issue. So So right now we don't have any plans for that, especially considering what we're going to be up against this summer. But we certainly always evaluate those types of things. This last question, is it possible to have a weekly update regarding the status and projections of our facilities, since it shall be changing quickly? Thank you for the great work in these trying times. So great question, whoever answered this question. And thank you for the kudos. But yeah, I think that's a very valid thing. And I'm looking at our IVGIDCOM person right now saying, just keep me, make sure that we're providing you the information weekly so that we can provide the community, even if nothing has changed. I think that's a very valid and important question, and we want to make sure everyone has the most up-to-date information. So I don't see any questions.
I know you got to them all. Thank you guys so much for your time today, and it's about time for us to go. So any last comments?
Thanks, Kari, and thank you, Indra, and just to the community. I think we got up to like 45 or 55 members, participants. Thanks for tuning in, and these are going to continue on a weekly basis until we can have an in-person meeting and whatnot, and maybe they'll continue after that. Really is a huge thank you to the community in general. The residents of Incline Village and Crystal Bay have been put through the ringer on this one, and the district has as well, and Indra and his team. And this is a great community. We rally in hard times, and this is our toughest time I've ever seen. And we celebrate the successes. So I can envision the monster block party of all block parties when we're all able to come out and enjoy socializing as a collective. But until that time, just again, stay safe, and we'll keep you updated as often as we were able to, and that makes sense. And again, all 5 of us trustees are available by phone or by email or by text, and I encourage you to reach out when able to. I want to just give on a personal note, an apology to a couple emails I received from some folks here in the community I've not been able to get back to. This has been a wild last week, and I promise that I will circle around and get back to you. And I think we all have those similar situations where we haven't been able to get back to people in as timely a manner as we would like to. So again, thanks for the patience, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. And thank you, Kari, for hosting this. And Indra, again, just please tell your team that we as a board really appreciate the hard work that you're doing, and we look forward to continued successes, however small they may be, getting to the larger picture. So just keep up the great work, everybody. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Tim. And yeah, I'll just say the same thing. Thanks to the community for your understanding. And, I think I've gotten about 30 emails just during this hour sitting here, and I'm certainly trying to be as responsive as I can to folks out in the community about everything. And, we're, a lot of these are, like I said, difficult decisions that are being made. However, and we get a lot of feedback from the community saying, just can you please, just as soon as we're allowed to, can you try to get everything back up to as normal operations as possible? And of course, we're going to do that, but it will be gradual. We need to make sure it's safe. We have very high service levels, as everybody knows, at each one of our venues. And we're going to have to manage that. Those service levels come with an expense. And so, we just, we may see some different things, but we're definitely going to do everything we can to get people out playing golf, working out at the rec center, participating in programs, hanging out at the beaches, playing tennis and pickleball, all the things that people love to do in our community. So we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure we do that as quickly as possible and provide a safe environment where everyone can feel confident going out and recreating. So looking forward to what's on the horizon in the next few weeks here. Hopefully we're going to know a lot more. But again, just thank you so much to the community and to the staff, and really appreciate everything.
Great. Thank you so much. I just want to remind everyone about Foodie Fridays tomorrow, because tomorrow is Friday. And so double check for that. Log in. Jill has amazing information. Great tips to help you not put on that quarantine 15, which we don't want to do, and continue to just look up. Thanks, community. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.